Hey, welcome to the Thriving Minds podcast with your host, Walter Parada, where we strive to provide you with empowering talks so you can live to thrive. I hope you find yourself in the right frame of mind, focusing on all the things within your control. All right, so today's episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of financial literacy. So, to set yourself up to thrive, it's going to be important that you manage your personal finances effectively because that's going to give you more options to do what you want. And this requires a lot of accountability and discipline to delay gratification. And this requires having a general plan for your life, knowing where you're headed. So you don't have to have all the details of what the plan entails, but having an idea is going to allow you to better identify what you need to do so you can get closer to it. For some, finances can be a very off-putting thing, but it doesn't have to be that way. Personal finance can be a very interesting, motivating, and empowering piece of your life. The more that you come to understand it, the better you position yourself for. At first glance, it might be boring, scary, unimportant, or simply no one taught us how. I think it's a combination of all these factors, especially when no one teaches it properly or teaches it at all to us. Just because we learn math in school does not mean that it's going to translate into good financial literacy. While the concepts are taught about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, it's a combination of numbers with words and how they tie together for a purpose. At first, it can seem boring because for most of us, messing around with numbers is uninteresting. We want to do things that are fun and exciting, so the younger that we are, we're going to gravitate towards having fun, and there's very little fun in working with numbers or reading about them. Now, there are a few people that naturally gravitate towards it at a very young age. You know, someone like Warren Buffett is a great example of this, where before the age of 10, he already had a firm understanding of money and how it worked. And that excited him. So it got him to learn more about it on his own. But for the most part, many of us require a bit of an introduction to get us going. Money, as of right now, is an important aspect of our lives because it affects where we live, our education, our health, how we make a living, our relationships, our family, and our future. It's estimated that financial literacy rate is at about 50%. And financial literacy is the ability to understand and put into action financial information. The greater your financial literacy is, the less likely you are to spend your income needlessly, having greater savings and a retirement plan. It's a chance to improve your quality of life. But currently, many people feel less optimistic about their financial situation and where it's headed. It's understandable. With the last few years, core inflation has spiked as high as 9% in a 1-year period, and certain things that we buy have doubled. And it can make it feel like this trend is just going to continue. Average core inflation rises about 2% per year, and the cost of living naturally rises over time. So it's unreasonable to expect prices to go back to what they were 4 or 5 years ago. You know, the average price for a gallon of gas in the 90s was $1.50. And I remember actually seeing prices at 99 cents a gallon. Today, the average price for a gallon of gas is $3.50. Eventually, inflation will moderate back down to 2% or close to it. But there's been times where inflation has spiked dramatically, like in the 1970s. So improving your financial literacy can turn that despair or that pessimism about your finances into an improved outlook so you can make better decisions. The key aspects of financial literacy are saving, budgeting, banking, credit, debt, and investing. Understanding them will truly help you manage your money much more efficiently. This is going to help you make and meet your financial goals. Saving is the first step in having money. If you don't save, it doesn't matter how much money you make because you'll likely spend it all. The more that you can save, the more you give yourself a cushion for unexpected purchases that are needed. So whatever money that you earn or that's given to you, make it a habit to save it. Put it away where it's out of your sight, but you know that it's there. And that kind of takes away the temptation of wanting to spend it. Put it in a piggy bank, in a coffee can, in a box, or a safe. This gets you to delay gratification. And if you happen to not keep track of how much you put in, and when you eventually do count it all, all those times that you make those deposits, it's going to be a good surprise because you might underestimate how much you actually have and find out that, dang, I've saved up quite a bit. This is going to help to ensure that you always have an emergency fund that you can rely on in special circumstances. The next part of financial literacy is budgeting. And this gives you a plan for how you're going to manage your money to keep you on track so you're not veering off and overspending. It also keeps track of the money that you earn and how much is saved. If you happen to overspend or come close to your limit, it gives you the chance to find out what to do, how to move things around to stay within budget. Now, there's going to be times where you do go over it, but it's going to be key to your financial success to stick to the budget consistently. And increasing the budget is an extremely poor habit. So set a reasonable limit and stick to it. A good general practice is 50% of your income goes to paying your expenses, 30% to your wants, and 20% towards savings. I like to shrink the wants and divert that towards saving. I prefer to have about 10% towards my want and more towards my savings. Just do what works for you. But this gives you a clear picture of the money that's coming in and going out and how much is left over. Put in all the details to break down all of your expenses, which allows you to see habits and where improvements can be made. Maybe you find out that you can eat out one time less per month to save $30, or you can use the car less to save on gas. For those that do not have a budget, they'll tend to spend excessively and might find themselves living paycheck to paycheck, even if they are a high earner. About 30% of people do not budget, so this doesn't set up well for them. About 40% of middle-class millennials and Gen Xers and 45% of baby boomers live paycheck to paycheck. For many people, about more than a third goes to housing, followed by groceries, utilities, transportation, and healthcare. Then it's restaurants, entertainment, and childcare. Food and drink are commonly one of the biggest sources of wasted money, averaging about $155 per month. That's $1,866 per year. About 32% of households' food is wasted, and the most efficient households were found to have food waste of about 9%. And while most inefficient households wasted close to 90% of their food. But most food waste is between 20 and 50%. This might help to find out where you could potentially save more. Just look at your shopping habits, your eating habits, and see where you can close the gap where you become a lot more efficient with how you spend your money. I think it's a little unreasonable to expect to be 100% efficient. There's always going to be miscalculations or whatever we want, right? We want to stock our homes with a little bit more food to ensure that we have what we need. But this just gives an idea where improvements can be made so you have more to save. An interesting thing is half of all produce is thrown away because it appears too ugly to eat. 63% of people don't know the difference between use by and best before dates. The use by date is for perishable items such as raw meats, fish and seafood, soft cheeses, and infant formula. Whereas best before date means it can still be eaten after the printed date. It just won't be of the highest quality. Things like canned foods, crackers, cookies. And this food waste results in lost revenue for farmers that causes higher prices for consumers. It's not just the foods thrown out by households, but supermarkets do the same as they stock the shelves with foods that are cosmetically perfect and are just going to throw out food that just looks unappealing. And this gives an idea of how you can become a little bit more financially fit. A great option that might help you to save on produce is going to grocery stores that have those imperfect foods where they look cosmetically ugly or unappealing, yet they're as nutritious as foods that look really good. There's cucumbers and tomatoes and eggplants that look not the same as the others, but have all the nutritional value, and it's still in good eating condition. The next part of good financial literacy is banking. And most people have a bank account. So having a bank account just makes life much simpler and convenient because of the safety that it provides. In storing your money in your own hands, at home or wherever it might be, it can get lost or damaged. And once that happens, no one's going to insure you or reimburse you for that. But if anything happens to your money in the bank and the bank itself goes out of business for whatever reason, the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, will reimburse you up to $250,000, whatever amount you have. And some banks offer more than that, or sometimes they offer more than just that. For getting paid, most employers have direct deposit where you can avoid having to cash your check, or better yet, just deposit the funds into your account and can use it whenever you need. A checking account works well for money that needs to come in and out, whereas a savings account is a relatively safe way to earn interest on the money that you have parked there, as long as you leave it for a set specified time based on the bank's terms. On the savings account, you can earn anywhere from 1 to 5% on the money that's left there. Most people have bank accounts, and there are other benefits that come with it, like building credit. And this can be done by getting approved for a credit card and managing it properly. By purchasing things with the credit card and paying it on time, preferably the entire statement before the due date, the more your credit score increases, which shows how reliable you are to the bank and other lenders. And this is going to give you better offers such as increased credit limits and lower interest rates. You just got to remember to use it wisely, because while you might have credit limits greater than the amount of cash you have, any balance left after each monthly pay period occurs interest fees that add up over time. So making the minimum payments just ensures that you're going to have to pay a lot more over an extended period of time. And a culprit of financial habits that limits people is credit card debt. It's understandable to use credit cards as necessary in certain times, as they're a great tool to get by for a short period of time. But consistently having credit card debt restricts financial success. To get an idea, 60% of people have credit card debt, with the average cardholder having $6,000 in debt. And the average interest rate is 22% that needs to be paid back on that debt. 67% of those in debt carry that over from month to month, and that's eating to what they can save. That's 22% that a person has over time. It's putting things off later that must be paid back at a higher cost. And 33% of cardholders commonly waste money on interest fees, whether they have the cash on hand and just decide not to pay it in full, or they just spend more than what they actually have. The longer it takes to pay off debt, the more that must be paid back. So use credit cards responsibly by paying it off in full on or preferably before the due dates. And this is going to increase that credit score. But medical debt is more restrictive, as 42% of people pay less than the minimum amount. Depending on the information that you look at, it's estimated that the average medical debt is $2,000, and 25% of the population owe $10,000 or more, even with half of them having health insurance. A little less than half of those expenses come from emergency room visits, and a little more than half of the people have some sort of medical debt. With the interest rate payment of 11% and a person being vulnerable after a health-related issue, it's understandable why this kind of debt feels really heavy. Obviously, it's about $4,000 less than the average debt of credit card, but people in this situation are kind of coming from a hard spot. They must recover health-wise and now have to reluctantly pay more money. At least with credit card debt, it's commonly used to buy something that you want to make you feel good. Whether it's a new pair of boots or a hat or a TV or a computer, whatever it might be. But for a medical expense, you're paying for, some sort of injury. But going back to the benefits of a bank is another way to build credit is by taking out a loan from them. When you pay it back on time, your credit score improves. This gives you more access to larger loan amounts with lower interest rates. Just like a credit card, it's important to manage it properly, paying it back on time or earlier, which is going to save you money on those interest payments. And as your credit score increases, you can eventually be approved for a mortgage to buy a house or an apartment, or to get a bigger loan amount to eventually maybe run your own business. This gives you the flexibility to put up less up front. The less up front that you put in, it means more money that you have to pay back due to those interest rates adding up over time. So just keep that in mind. It's important to use credit cards and loans only as necessary and not just because you have access to it. If you have all the cash to pay for your expenses, then using your credit card is a real benefit as long as you pay it off in full each pay period. The more that you use it responsibly, the higher your credit score will be, and that's going to rack up perks such as points for certain purchase items at discounted rates, such as flights, or your earned cash back. It might be 1, 2, 3, 4% depending on the card. And this is a very interesting and insightful piece of information. 97% of people without debt feel more satisfied with their lives. And this makes sense as they have more flexibility to do what they want. It's more money to allocate in other areas of their lives, whether it's things or experiences, to save money, to invest so that money can grow. It allows them to be less worried about what they owe and can focus their time and energy on other things. It's going to be key to manage your debt effectively. If possible, avoid debt and just use it as necessary. Certain purchases are justified to pay with credit card, but pay it off as quickly as you can. If it's wanting to buy a jacket that you really like, maybe it'd be best to say no. But if it's to replace your water heater, then that's a great decision, right? You want to have hot water. These are like the necessities. So pay more now to pay less later, or possibly pay nothing extra. A mortgage is a good tool to eventually own a home. It affords you the chance to live there without needing to have the cash up front. If you can afford to pay for a home all cash and have enough left over to live comfortably, then go for it. But for those of us that don't have the funds or the means to do so, it's a great vehicle to get started. And mortgage rates tend to be a lot lower than other loans or credit cards. They can be as low as, 2.5%, but that's really rare. And they can be as high as, I think in the 1970s, mortgage rates were up to 16 or 17%. But, they generally fall, 6, 7%, maybe even 8% seems pretty reasonable. The final piece of financial literacy is investing. And this is such a great vehicle to really grow your money over time. I wish somebody would have told me this a lot sooner or exposed me to it, just the importance of it and how to do it. While banks can pay you interest on money that you put into savings account and credit cards provide cash back and other discounted features, they're generally low returns. Investing, specifically in the stock market, can really accelerate your net worth over time. The stock market is investing in publicly traded companies where you own a piece of a company and you become what's known as a shareholder, putting your money to work in them. These are companies that are generally big and well known, such as Chevron, Walmart, Amazon, Google, JP Morgan. You can invest directly in individual companies where you select the companies that you want, or you can own a group of companies to spread out your risk in case a certain company performs poorly. Investing in individual companies or groups of companies both have their advantages and disadvantages. Being a shareholder in an individual company can provide high returns when they perform well, but they can drop significantly when they perform poorly. Owning a group of companies like index funds are a basket of different companies designed to spread out the risk. So if a certain company does poorly, the other good performing companies prevent the value of your investment from dropping significantly, and they do well over time. But the downside of owning a group of companies like the S&P 500, which is the 500 best performing companies in the US, is that the upside is not as big because it includes those top performers, those average performers, and those below average performers that kind of, even out the overall returns and can drag down some of those potential returns. So how to actually invest your money is you'll need a brokerage account or a retirement account, which works similar to a checking and a savings account. You can either manage your money where you pick the companies that you want to be a shareholder in, or you can pay a financial firm to manage your money for you. Doing it yourself requires consistently being informed about what's going on. So if you have the time and the stomach to handle the highs and lows, then go for it. But if you want to be hands off and not be bothered with the work required, then having a qualified, reputable financial firm is going to work great for you. If you want more info on how to get started in investing, then listen to the episode on investing your money to get an overview with helpful details that can help you decide which route is best for you. There are many great financial educators and investors that can provide you with really good actionable advice, such as Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey or Jim Cramer. Just find the right fit for you, where you can understand and enjoy the process of increasing your investing knowledge. There's a lot to investing, so make sure to stay informed, even if you decide to not do it yourself. By being proactive in improving your financial literacy, you're going to set yourself up for a great future. It's going to help you be more informed so you can make better and better decisions. It's going to increase your confidence. It can help you be more optimistic. And during times where things get hard, such as high inflation or making a mistake money-wise, you better handle it because the information that you acquire can help you figure out solutions. People tend to lose hope when adversity strikes and they don't know what to do. And then they'll just throw in the towel, give into the situation that they're in. The right information and applying it properly can turn things around for the better. Those hard times that you go through financially can serve as lessons going forward to know what not to do and what to do. From there, you can just build on it, continuously growing your financial knowledge because it's going to improve your overall situation. It's going to be important to remember that it's not about how much money you make, but how much money you can keep. So if you're earning 6 or 7 figures of over $1 million, that means very little if you have poor financial habits. The simple things such as not saving, not having a budget can cause you to spend recklessly because you might be thinking that the money is always going to be coming in. Having that large amount of money can make you feel like the faucets are always going to be running full throttle, where the money's just coming in and you don't have to worry about a thing. Many unexpected things can happen, such as recessions, which is a natural thing in the economic cycle and occurs on average every 5 to 8 years. And this can cause you to lose a portion or all of your income based on being laid off or or if you run your own business, there's going to be times where it will be slow and just things are going to be hard. So just because someone makes a lot of money does not mean that they'll do well in managing that money and vice versa. Just because someone earns very little does not mean they'll do poorly in managing that money that limits their financial success. You can do extremely well financially by earning very little, as it comes down to managing yourself and your money efficiently. Earning $30,000 a year might seem like it's going to be a hindrance to really growing your wealth, but beyond what's on the surface of just how much money is coming in, budgeting allows you to really be effective in what to do with it. There are many people who earn 6 or 7 figures, but how much of that money do they actually retain? Because maybe they live in an area where the cost of living is really high, such as Manhattan, San Jose, San Francisco, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Miami. All these places, real estate is expensive. Cost of goods and services are much higher, and that adds up quickly over time. You could do very well financially, earning a modest income in a low cost of living area with a good quality of life. You know, there's many places in Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, or North Carolina. Ronald Read was a man who amassed $8 million when he passed away. And he worked as a gas station attendant in Vermont, making about $31,000 a year. As you might expect, for him to grow his wealth, he had great financial habits, such as saving, budgeting, living well below his means, and investing his money. He managed his own money, selecting individual stocks, and while he had a large group of companies that many financial experts would not recommend, I think he owned about 92 companies, or maybe even more than that. That's a lot of companies to really oversee, but he did well. You know, the wealth came from being patient, building over many decades. So it's a slow process, but it has been proven to be a great way to grow your money. He was extremely frugal, driving an old, inexpensive car, would take care and salvage whatever he could, things such as his clothes. You know, he would avoid eating out unless it was a inexpensive breakfast. Ronald was just great at managing money in a way that worked for him. He serves as a great reference point that it can be done. It proves that you don't have to make a lot to grow your wealth over time. You know, he did all the right things, saving what he could, really using his money wisely, ensuring that he could live the quality of life that suited him. While maybe you don't want to follow the same frugality of Ronald Read, you can take lessons of the importance of saving, the importance of having a budget, sticking to it, and continuously investing your money, because even certain investments that he made failed. When you can make financial literacy a priority and really implement the things that you take in, it's going to set you up for a better future, for more opportunities, so you can really thrive. Money is not the end-all be-all, but it's a tool to help you do what you want in life. Yes, you can buy things that can bring you spurts of happiness in certain moments, but you can also use that money for experiences, to spend more time with your loved ones, with the people that you really value. Yes, it can be boring at times staying up to date with this information, and if that's the case, you can always hire a financial planner to do it for you, to actually get you to save, to have a budget, to build your credit, to invest your money. And they'll be the ones to inform you, to keep you on track, so you can continue to enjoy life more and more as you progress. And nowadays, there's robo-advisors, there's all these apps and different websites that do a really good job helping you get your finances in order. Just remember, the better that you can manage your emotions, the better you will manage your money. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're interested in more topics like this, become a Thriving Minds member at www.thrivingminds.live. It's your personal development resource so you can build that right mindset so you can live to thrive. All right, until next time.